Welcome to Dodgers Dogs. As part of the Dodgers Daily Network, Casey Porter here, joined by Austin Brubaker. Hey, Austin, can you smell what the Dodgers are cooking, huh?
Oh, this is a good day to be a Dodgers. Yeah, last night, actually got a really good night of sleep. Went to bed here on the East Coast about 9:30 or so. Fell asleep about 10 o'clock. Got a good amount of sleep. Woke up in the morning to my phone with a whole bunch of different notifications that overnight or during the later hours on the West Coast, Blake Snell was a Dodger. Everybody was happy. Everybody was rejoicing. The Dodgers ended up getting their starter that they needed. When we last talked, I think it was on the show that we had, what was it, Friday or so?
Yeah.
We were kind of narrowing down, okay, what is the one thing that the Dodgers will need for this upcoming season to really help them? And I think there was no hesitation that the Dodgers needed a frontline starter, somebody that would help this rotation, because they got pretty lucky with what they were able to get out of their starting pitchers during this past postseason. And so they go out and get the guy that they specifically targeted. They didn't wait around. They didn't wait for any sort of discount to go ahead and go after him. They saw an opportunity to go out and get a talented starting pitcher, a talented free agent pitcher. They spent a little bit of money, and now they have Blake Snell to that rotation, a rotation that, if they were to stop right now, could potentially in the postseason be Blake Snell, Yoshinobu Yamamoto, Shohei Ohtani, and Tyler Glasnow as the four starting pitchers that you would have through the rotation in the postseason. That's a pretty good postseason rotation. I know a lot of fans
Say it again.
Blake Snell, Yoshinobu Yamamoto, Tyler Glasnow, Shohei Ohtani. I mean, any one of those guys could be a number one on any given staff. And that's not tapping into any sort of the other depth that the Dodgers could have, or some of the other potential guys that they could bring in, like a Kershaw, who is likely to come back to the Dodgers, or like a Sasaki, who there's a good chance the Dodgers, or at least targeting him, and he could be a really talented piece the Dodgers could add. The Dodgers got a really good pitcher in Blake Snell, something that they desperately needed. We'll talk a little bit about that move, but you have to take time when the Dodgers do go out and make a signing, especially when it addresses the biggest area of need for the Dodgers. You got to take a little bit of time and celebrate. And so Casey and I, we're celebrating that the Dodgers got a really talented pitcher. I'm happy. That solves one of the biggest worries that I had about the Dodgers. Today's a good day. I woke up pretty happy this morning.
I wouldn't say it was a worry. I mean, I think that's probably a little bit too dramatic for the way I was seeing it. I would say, we've used this terminology before, it was one of my first world problems for the Dodgers, right? I mean, as long as Tyler Glasnow gets healthy and Yoshinobu Yamamoto stay healthy and Shohei Ohtani is healthy, and whatever Dustin May and Tony Gonsolin can give you, still have Bobby Miller and the like. So, you know how we talked in the postseason. Matter of fact, I'm going to talk to Ben Kasparius tomorrow morning. I was supposed to talk to him this morning, but he woke up sick. So we're going to see if he can go at it in the morning before we go to Thanksgiving at Mom and Dad's. But anyways, in the playoffs, you remember that game that the Dodgers lost? I think it was like 11-3 in Game 4 against the Yankees, where Ben Kasparius threw the 2 innings and he gave up 1 run. And then Landon Knack kind of stabilized the game. And remember, the Dodgers didn't win that game. But by Landon Knack going, I think it was 5 innings, and then also Ben Kasparius going 2, you knocked down 7 innings and you kept all of that stress off of your bullpen, the A-team bullpen guys, right? So here's how valuable all of this, you can say, well, what are they going to do if Nick Frasso's healthy? What are they going to do with him? What are they going to do with Landon Knack? What are they going to do with Bobby Miller? What are they going to do with Ben Kasparius? What are they going to do with Justin Robleski? What are they going to do with Jared Karros, who I'm going to release Jared's interview this week? And Jared point blank said in our interview, I asked, he expects, or he's excited about the prospects of possibly making his Major League debut this season. I think he will.
Oh, absolutely.
I've said that a couple times. Then you have guys like Jackson Ferris, right? So the question for somebody like me is, what are you going to do with these guys? So having this amount of depth and talent in the pitching prospect ranks for the Dodgers, what it's allowed them to do is go get the contracts that they've wanted, right? So, like, they didn't feel like they had to go get somebody just because they're durable. They didn't feel like they had to go get an innings eater. They didn't feel like they had to do any of that. They felt like what they needed to do was go get the most amount of talent, the most amount of just if the arsenal, if he's healthy, then the arsenal is elite. They felt like they could go get that pitcher because they have that much depth at the minor league ranks. So I think you can really thank. Can you say that? Or is that just a redneck thing here in Oklahoma, Austin?
Oh, yeah. No, you can thank.
I think you can thank all of your pitching depth, the minor league system, that the Dodgers go get a Blake Snell, because even though there may be some risk as far as innings here or there, they have the depth to cover it. Does that make sense?
Yes, that makes 100% sense. This goes and speaks to what we talk about quite a bit, which is the Dodgers' attention to detail and their developmental system, opening up options for the Dodgers. The Blake Snell signing was in part because the Dodgers have a lot of options and they were able to target specific guy that they believe they can help maximize their talents and that they believe would be the best fit for the Dodgers. So Blake Snell is signed to the Dodgers for a 5-year, I believe, $182 million contract.
That's a lot, man.
It's a lot of money. It includes a $52 million signing bonus just for signing with the Dodgers, which also helps. Lives in the state of Washington, no income tax over there. Helps with Blake Snell, bringing him into Los Angeles. So 5 years. There is some deferred money that is going to come with this, which I don't have the exact details about the deferred money for that. But it is a lot of money over the span of the next 5 seasons. Now, why did the Dodgers go out and target a Blake Snell? He has been one of the better pitchers in the game of baseball. I'm not concerned about right-handed versus left-handed, although it's an added benefit that he's a left-handed pitcher.
I think that's a plus.
Yes, that is a plus, but that's not the reason why they signed Blake Snell.
Totally agree.
They signed him because they believe that he's the best fit for this Dodgers team. He strikes out a ton of batters. Blake Snell is towards the top percentile in all the game of baseball is striking out batters. And that especially came into fruition during the second half of this past season. He's had a great career. And last offseason, he was a big free agent. Somebody that I actually don't think that you and I were very high on, nor do I think the Dodgers, I think they were kind of keeping an eye out on him. Obviously, no teams really sought him out until very late in the game, ends up signing a shorter term deal with San Francisco with the ability to opt out. And this past season started off incredibly rough for Blake Snell. But once you get into the second half of the season, he was just absolutely lights out. Over the course of the season, just total statistics throughout the season, 3.12 ERA with a 2.54 expected ERA, which that expected ERA is much more highly correlated with the following season's ERA than the previous season's ERA. So that's a really good sign. It's even lower.
It's supposed to be.
it over the course of, if you look at the overall players, that's not this is going to happen. This is what has happened in the past. So strikes out a lot of guys. He was in the 98th percentile in strikeout percentage. That's, I would say, pretty good. He does walk some hitters. However, when we're talking about walks with Blake Snell, I think you have to understand that is very much intentional with the type of approach that Blake Snell takes. He is not, I wouldn't call him a wild pitcher. He very much is a live around the zone, and he'd rather deal with the walks than make the mistake pitches. If you look at some of the graphs as far as the mistake pitches that have been thrown, Blake Snell's towards the bottom of the league. That's because he's trying to live on the zone, trying to induce some of that swing and miss. And if that comes with a few more pitches, if that comes with a few more walks, so be it, as long as he gets the best efficiency out of it, or I wouldn't say efficiency, the best amount of production during the time that he is in there. So he does have some high walks. He was in the lower percentile of walks, but that is intentional because of the way he goes out and attacks the zone. I would assume the Dodgers would keep a similar approach. However, if he wanted to change a little bit and throw a little bit more strikes, I have no doubt that Blake Snell would have the ability to be able to do that. So he's a high strikeout type of guy. He's somebody that has had a lot of success, including some postseason success. Dodgers obviously have a history with Blake Snell in the postseason going against him. Game 6 of the 2020 World Series. Blake Snell is a phenomenal pitcher. The Dodgers have him over the course of the 5 years, which will be from his age 32 through his age 36 seasons, which there no doubt there's a little bit of risk in that, especially with the type of money that you are paying him. However, with any of the three big frontline free agent starting pitchers that the Dodgers could have gone out and targeted, and I'm talking about Corbin Burnes, I'm talking about Max Fried, and Blake Snell, there is some varying level of risk that the Dodgers would have to take on. Blake Snell probably would have required, is him or Max Fried would have required the less amount of years. So that could be an added benefit, even though it's coming a little bit later. You still have a little bit more long-term flexibility on the roster. And one of the best benefits of signing a Blake Snell is he does not have the qualifying offer. He already used up the qualifying offer, which means the Dodgers in this signing do not lose a draft pick for Blake Snell, which they were going to lose a draft pick for going over the competitive balance more than likely. They don't have to lose another one with signing Blake Snell. That's a good, positive thing for this Dodgers team. He helps the Dodgers staff. If the Dodgers maximize what he is able to do effectively and try to make sure that he is healthy, specifically in the postseason, specifically in the second half where he has historically been better, this is going to be a really good thing for the Dodgers. And it shows that over the next couple of seasons, during the peaks, during the still really good years of Shohei Ohtani, Mookie Betts, still when Freddie Freeman is on this team, this Dodgers team is all in. And I think that message that the Dodgers team is not satisfied with one World Series championship, they want to go and build a dynasty. That message is very clear across the game of baseball. I'm excited about that. I'm excited about Blake Snell, seeing what he's going to be able to do for this Dodgers team.
I've said it many times that the Dodgers won the World Series this year, right? With the worst roster they're going to have for the forthcoming future. And they're showing it because you're going to have what you had last year, maybe minus a Walker Buehler who wasn't good until like the last 3 or 4 games, right? Mm-hmm. So you're minus a Walker Buehler, you're going to have that same roster, okay? But you're going to add Blake Snell, and you're probably going to either add a shortstop or an outfielder to that, and maybe even another reliever. So whatever you had last year, that was the least talented team that you're going to have as the Dodgers. Plus, you didn't even have Tyler Glasnow in the playoffs. So imagine the World Series team from 2024. Okay, imagine adding this in the offseason. Adding Blake Snell, Tyler Glasnow, and Shohei Ohtani to the starting rotation, right? Okay, and then imagine adding maybe a Juan Soto, or if you go conservative, a Hassan Kim at short and moving Tommy Edman to center field. Imagine adding that to the team that proved itself to be the best team in baseball last year, even with all the injuries.
And that's not including, because there will be needs that come up through the regular season. That's not including, you talked about the development system, adding to the depth, adding to the Dodgers' ability to go out and target a guy, maybe a guy that probably has more risk than a Max Fried and a Corbin Burnes, but maybe as much or more upside than both of those. They also have the ability, because of the depth they've built up in this farm system, to, you know what, if there's a weakness that comes out throughout the season, they have the ability to go out and make those types of trades too, and add on to the 2024 World Series team even more than what we're expecting them to do during the offseason. It is a luxury what the Dodgers are dealing with. They are the model franchise in Major League Baseball. They are the type of team. They are setting an example of how to do things across the game, and everybody else is just trying to catch up to the Dodgers. They're in a really good position right now with Blake Snell, and it's going to be an incredible challenge for any team to go up against the Dodgers during the postseason. That is a credit to this Dodgers franchise, this Dodgers organization, for finding the right players, building up the infrastructure to make this dynasty possible, or potential dynasty possible, I should say potential dynasty, because they still have to go out and win additional World Series, but they're in a great position right now.
Yeah, so if Tyler Glasnow was healthy at the deadline last year and the Dodgers were convinced he was going to be available for the playoffs, do they go get Flaherty, or do they let him go to New York?
That's a really good question. I don't know if they go out and get a Flaherty. Yeah,
right. That's kind of what I'm saying.
Yeah,
that's kind of where I'm at. Right. At least it wouldn't have been as frantic. They were going to get Jack Flaherty, whether it took all the way to the 11th hour. Right. They were going to do whatever it took to get him, because they had to get him. I mean, without Jack Flaherty, the Dodgers don't win the World Series.
That's true. Yeah.
Right. So they had to get him. Okay. So I'm setting up kind of what I'm wanting to say here. This is how good the Dodgers are. They learned a couple of years ago that the trade deadline is tough because with all of the new wild card teams, now there's so many teams that are so close to that last wild card spot. It's tough for these owners to convince their fans that they should be sellers, right? Because, I mean, even if, like, say you're 3 or 4 games under 500, like the Angels were pitiful, right? And, like, at the trade deadline, they were, like, 5 games back from the last wild card spot, right? I mean, that's just how easy it is to get into that last, at least to be within striking distance of the last wild card spot at the trade deadline. It's pretty easy to do, right? So what that does is it drives up the prices of all those big-name free agents at the trade deadline because you have more teams that are either not wanting to sell or more teams that feel like, oh, we're just one guy away from making a really big run, right? So the Dodgers pivoted and they went and did almost all their work in the offseason last year, right? They're doing all their work again here in this offseason. And then what they're using the trade deadline for is we're going to see how this goes. And we think we have what we need. If we don't, then we'll figure out something at the 11th hour. But it's not going to be like the 5 guys that we needed to go get. It's not the Shohei Ohtani and the Tyler Glasnow and the Yoshinobu Yamamoto all together. I mean, so I think this is just brilliant strategy to put your roster together to where it's just almost completely airtight going into the season. That way, when you get into the trade deadline, you're not as desperate. You're a little bit choosier. And then also you're way more specific as far as what exactly do we need, right? So the Dodgers went to the trade deadline last year going, we have to get an ace starter. It doesn't matter what we have to give up for it. Let's do it. We get an ace starter. We win a World Series.
Yeah, and having this approach, going out and getting players in the offseason, I think Casey's pointed out, creates the opportunity for the Dodgers to be opportunistic at the trade deadline, to go out and be like, hey, there's a
not aggressive, opportunistic. That's the right way to put it.
That seems to be available for the St. Louis Cardinals, a player that the Dodgers had wanted for years or identified as the player that could potentially fit what the Dodgers were doing. He was injured. He was coming back from injury. They had an opportunity to be opportunistic. They didn't necessarily need a Tommy Edman, although he certainly helped to the lineup that desperately needed
yourself,
an additional
boy.
I know. But he ended up being an absolutely great player, and they were able to find a way to go out and get a player like that. They have the ability to do that if they don't have to focus on aggressive needs that the Dodgers have, which certainly could pop up throughout the season. The Dodgers were not anticipating all of their starters getting injured through the course of the regular season to the point where they had to go out and aggressively target a Jack Flaherty during the last offseason. They thought they had enough depth. They didn't have enough depth, so they ended up doing that. What the Dodgers are doing right now is they're adding a bunch of incredibly talented players. Blake Snell is adding to this list. He's one of these guys. I think the Dodgers are much more confident in his abilities going forward than a Jack Flaherty and a Walker Buehler, which you add him to this postseason pitching staff, add in different ways and approaches to go about keeping these guys healthy throughout the course of the regular season. And you have to be incredibly happy with where the Dodgers are at currently, while also understanding that the Dodgers could do more to the starting rotation staff. I don't think the Dodgers are necessarily done. I think they're still going to aggressively pursue. They're going to aggressively pursue.
Well, what's the 40-man at right now? This will tell you everything you need to know.
Yeah, the 40.
37.
Yeah, it just went up to 37. Yes, but
they're not done.
I know, and even with the starting pitching side, they're not necessarily done. I still believe that they're going to try to do everything that it takes to go out and get a Roki Sasaki. Ultimately, it's up to him whether he wants to come to the Dodgers or not. I don't think the signing bonus difference between one club and the other is going to be a whole lot. If he wants to become a Dodger, he's going to become a Dodger, and that's going to be another addition because he'd be a cheap talent that can be part of the starting Dodgers pitching staff for quite a long time. He has the ability to be able to do so with that. So we'll see if that happens. If it happens, that'd be great. That'd be adding another piece of the Dodgers. If it doesn't, you still feel confident about this Dodgers, where the Dodgers are at right now, and that's not including a Clayton Kershaw that they're likely to bring back. The Dodgers have a lot of options. I think ultimately the next move, or at least for a lot of fans' mind, the next move would be to bring back probably a Teoscar Hernandez to shore up another bat in the outfield. If you add him, you start feeling really confident about where this lineup is at, even without adding anybody else. Dodgers are in a really good spot right now. It's not even December yet, and the Dodgers addressed their biggest area of need. You got to feel comfortable right now.
Yeah. So you get 40 men on your 40-man roster. That's why it's called 40-man, right?
Yes.
You might as well call this a 42-man roster for the Dodgers, because the Dodgers are going to put Sasaki, if they get him, and Clayton Kershaw on the 40-man after all the 60-day ILs go off, right? So they have the 3 spots, my opinion, beyond signing Roki Sasaki or Clayton Kershaw. They have 3 spots to go get anybody else other than those 3 guys. Obviously, Teo Hernandez would be one of them. He would be a very big disappointment if he does not come back to the Dodgers, just for so many different reasons. I still think they're going to sign either a shortstop or an outfielder, and I still think they need call it whatever you want, another one of those high leverage relievers. Okay, whether you want to call it a closer, the last 3 outs, the biggest 3 outs, they need another, especially because they haven't re-signed Blake Trinan, right? So, I mean, I think they need Blake Trinan and another high leverage type reliever. Now, keep in mind, whenever I'm saying this, I'm saying, okay, well, if you're going to spend $700 billion and break the game of baseball and have everybody else just wanting to take their bats and go home like they're feeling right now after you sign Blake Snell, to have that type of airtight type of roster, I still think you need one more high leverage reliever like a Blake Trinan and another one of those guys. I think then also you need a shortstop and an outfielder and Teo. At that point, it is game, set, and match.
You would be, oh man, that would be absolutely wonderful if the Dodgers were able to do those.
Oh, they're going to. They got 3 spots left, plus Kershaw and Sasaki. They are going to do that. I think Trinan will take one of them, maybe, but.
Yeah. The Dodgers have so many options ahead of them. They have areas that they want to address, areas that they can improve on. I think bringing back the Teoscar, bringing back a Kershaw, bringing back perhaps a Kike Hernandez could really help this Dodgers roster where they are at and help them going forward in this postseason. Dodgers are in an incredible spot. So with this Blake Snell signing.
Well, hold on. Before you go on, Kike, do the Dodgers really need to sign him in the offseason? I mean, what's the reasoning for that?
They don't necessarily need to sign him in the offseason. They could potentially sign him after spring training starts. They also don't have to fill up all of their 40-man roster spots. So if they are not comfortable going out and signing a high leverage reliever to a long-term deal, or if the trades don't happen to work out, they do have the ability to bring in guys. They have the ability to train guys to fill in those type of roles, and they're
prime for a trade. They're prime for a trade, Austin.
You're praying for a Devin Williams?
No, they're prime for a trade. I mean, they have every single prospect still in place.
They do have a lot of prospects in place. Absolutely.
They have prospect. So, we talked the other night about the White Sox wouldn't want Gavin Lux because his timeline doesn't fit theirs and this and that. So you have all those issues with the major league ready position players, right? And then even some of the pitchers. But when you're talking about a Dalton Rushing, a Nick Frasso, a Justin Robleski, a Bobby Miller, a Ben Kasparius, when you're talking about those guys, short of injury, you don't have any of those concerns. Every single team will want those. There's not going to be he doesn't fit our timeline. Well, he doesn't fit our needs. Everybody needs a Nick Frasso if he's healthy. Everybody needs a Justin Robleski if he's healthy. Everybody would love to have Dalton Rushing if he's healthy. Everybody would love to have Jackson Ferris or Zaire Hope or Kenny George or Josue De Paula. He's not on our timeline or this or that. So, I mean, the Dodgers have so much capital built up right now they can go get whatever trade target they want to get in this offseason.
They absolutely can do that. They also, because of the way that their roster is built up, like we talked about during the trade deadline being opportunistic, they have the ability to be opportunistic during this offseason as well. If there are specific guys that they want to go out and target, they could go out and target those guys. If they want it to happen at their price, which the Dodgers have shown in the past that they are somewhat picky at times at wanting things to happen at their price, because they went out and got their guy, they went out and got a frontline starting pitcher, they can be opportunistic. They can be picky at which guy that they want to target through the offseason as well. The Dodgers have certain players, certain molds in mind of who they want to target. They don't necessarily have to go out and get any specific player, have to go out and get a high leverage relief arm, because the Dodgers have shown the ability that they can develop them, but they also have the ability to. So if Devin Williams, just using his name as an example, because he is a potential option to be traded, even though Milwaukee was a playoff team and very likely wants to be a playoff team this upcoming season, he only has 1 year of club control yet and probably won't resign with Milwaukee, although he could. The Dodgers have an opportunity to look into that type of trade. And if the cost is way too high in the Dodgers' mind, they don't have to make that move. Or they could go out and say, you know what, let's get one of the best closers in the game of baseball. I think best closer is probably Emmanuel Clase, but one of the best would be in Devin Williams. They could go out and do that. They don't necessarily have to do that. They have the opportunity to be picky at what they do with what they've done so far. I think you go out and sign a Teoscar Hernandez, and
that's the first move,
you go and then you take a step back and say, what is going to be in the best interest now and in the long term for this Dodgers team? Go out and make the moves that fit in that. Go out and make the moves that you believe help fit into this Dodgers culture really well. You don't have to overpay for guys now at this point. Dodgers in a really good position with where their roster is at. Blake Snell really helps this Dodgers team. I'm super excited he's part of the Dodgers.
Yeah, I will say this, and I'm not disagreeing with anything you're saying. What you're saying is the Dodgers went into the offseason with needs, and now they're kind of in the position where they have wants. I would push back a little bit. I mean, without Blake Treinen on this roster, this last postseason, where are the Dodgers at? I mean, what happens to the Dodgers?
He was absolutely wonderful with the Dodgers, and I'd love to bring back a Blake Treinen. I'm not going to sign Blake Treinen for more than 1 year.
Understood. That's not what I'm saying.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is, if you don't bring him back, but you don't duplicate what he was, then what do you have as far as a bullpen?
Who knows? But
that's what I'm saying. I think that becomes saying that. I think that means that's a need. If you're going to say who knows, if that's your initial reaction to what do they have without Blake Treinen or somebody to replace him, that's meant to be his high leverage type of role. Then if your answer to that is who knows what they have, that in my opinion is at that point that becomes a need instead of a want.
But who saw what Evan Phillips was able to do when he first came with the Dodgers? Who saw what Ryan Brazier, when the Dodgers targeted him and he had an impact on this Dodgers team, what he was able to do? Who saw what Anthony Banda, what was going to be able to do for the Dodgers? The Dodgers know what they're doing with the relief pitching targets. And if they identified certain guys, even if it's not the guy that's had the high level of success or proven track record, they know how to target specific guys that fit their culture and how to get the best.
But those guys didn't do what Blake Treinen did.
They didn't do what Blake Treinen did. And this is nothing against going out and getting a Blake Treinen. This is looking at beyond a Blake Treinen, what they could potentially do on the relief arm. And it also comes into question, okay, with this Dodgers bullpen, with the signing of Blake Snell. Now, with Blake Snell, phenomenal pitcher. He very likely is going to be one of those guys who, in quite a few games when he's out there on the mound, is probably going to give you about 5 innings or so. He's one of those guys that is going to look for trying to put up zeros rather than be efficient with the number of pitches that he goes out there and throws, which is why he dances around the zone a little bit, tries to get the swing and miss. We'll deal with some of the walks that you have. When you're talking about a 6-man rotation for this Dodger staff, which Shohei Ohtani would add an extra arm into that 6-man rotation, it comes into question of how you want to construct this Dodgers bullpen. Do you want, and you're going to need at least one guy that can be a bulk inning guy out of this Dodgers bullpen.
They've got plenty of those guys.
What was that?
They've got plenty of those guys.
They've got plenty of those guys, but the question is, how many of those guys do you want to actively have on your 26-man roster? Not on your 40-man roster, but on your 26-man roster. Because if you have one guy, okay, one guy might be fine, but if you're having to use your bullpen arms every other day, you might not be giving them as much rest. If you want to put two guys on your roster, that limits the amount of high leverage relief arms that you could have on your roster to about 6, which if you talk about the guys currently in this Dodgers bullpen that are under contract right now, you have a Michael Kopech, Evan Phillips, you have an Anthony Banda, you have a Ryan Brazier who signed under contract next season, and Alex Vesia. That leaves room for maybe one more. Assuming all those guys are healthy, let's say it's a Blake Trinan, there's 6 guys right there. Do you want to have 2 guys that can be those bulk inning type guys to add additional rest to your relief arms? I think that could be another factor that is part of this equation for the Dodgers as far as how many bullpen arms they want to target and how they utilize their pieces. I also want to see the Dodgers intentionally give some innings to a lot of these younger guys to be able to further their development, like we've been talking about quite a bit, which will come up throughout the year in the rotation. I think there's an opportunity for that to come up in bulk inning relief pitchings, or perhaps a piggyback type start.
Great
so
point,
for
Austin.
like Blake Snell, if you're only expecting him to go 5 innings or roughly about 5 innings per start, the Dodgers in their minor league system have shown that they want to go ahead and practice what's called the piggyback start, which for those of you who are unaware, the piggyback start just means you have one guy that eats bulk innings, 3, 4, 5 innings, and then you have a second starter that can go out and eat 3, 4 innings or so behind him. So you basically have 2 starters in a game, which allows you to only use 2 pitchers during that game, which would provide additional rest to your bullpen. So if the Dodgers wanted to go with a piggyback starter type approach, you would think, hey, maybe it might be best to have 2 length guys come out of the bullpen to be able to help this team in order to provide additional rest for the bullpen arms that we have, which I think is something that is important for this Dodgers team to be able to do. That comes into question of whether or not the Dodgers, how many relief arms or high leverage relief arms should the Dodgers target? That would be the only real pushback that I would have towards that, is thinking about how do you get through this season and how much rest you want to provide between even the bullpen starts. If you have 2 bulk guys, that gives you additional rest. If you have one, that's meaning you're using your relief pitchers at least a little bit more, or putting a little bit more pressure on your starting pitchers. But then you might not be getting the best part of the bullpen is they're a little bit more efficient of what they'll be able to produce. So it's a balancing act of how careful you want to be with especially your relief pitchers throughout the course of the season.
Yeah. See, and that's great breakdown. That's the number crunch of the whole deal. My coach's response would be, all I know is we only have one other guy on the roster right now that can do what I saw Blake Trinan do last year, or at least has done what Blake Trinan has done. And that guy's name is Evan Phillips, and he wasn't healthy at the end of last year. And by God, I need that guy to go out in the 6th inning and get the 3 biggest outs. Right. So my response would be to you, like you would be the guy trying to figure out how to work it all on the roster. And I'd be saying, okay, make it work, Austin. All I know is we're either going to have Blake Trinan or we're going to have somebody else that I can trust just as much as Blake Trinan. We have 3 spots on the roster. We have 2 more coming. Once we have basically 5 more coming. Once you put all the 60-day ILs on the 60 IL at spring training. Okay, so figure it out, because all I know is I'm not putting all these billions of dollars into my roster and not having a guy that I trust to get the last 3 outs.
And that's totally fair. And you could even make the argument, okay, what happens if we extend like a Ryan Brazier out, have him go 2 innings or so when during his outings that
I'm
he goes
saying
out
no
there.
to that.
Well, okay. So then you have to think about other guys that could be stretched out a little bit more and be different bulk innings and a whole bunch of different approaches like that. They're going to have to figure out what the math works to get them through the regular season. What I'd be concerned with, okay, I think they have the ability to identify or train up somebody that can be effective during late innings throughout the course of the regular season. I want to make sure that the pitchers that the Dodgers have get to October.
Yeah.
I think that is
Six-man
my
rotation.
biggest concern right now.
6-man rotation.
And part of the math for a 6-man rotation is making sure that even with that 6-man rotation, you keep the bullpen, because that means one less option in the bullpen.
No,
you have to keep those guys
with
healthy.
Ohtani, it doesn't.
With Ohtani, the math changes a little bit. You would still have 8 pitchers as far as that bullpen goes, but you have to make sure that those guys are healthy and rested as best as you can throughout the course of the regular season. Dodgers are going to have to figure out the best way to approach that.
So with a 5-man rotation and 13 pitchers, what's 13 minus 5?
8.
So what's 14 minus 6?
It's still 8. I'm
right.
aware.
Right. So the math right there, it adds up. It adds up to 6-man rotation, which means your starters get that 1 extra day of rest all year long. That allows you to get a guy that's maybe a little bit more risky in terms of the injury-prone guy. And then it also allows you to maybe lean on your starters just a little bit more to maybe go that 6th inning. And then I'll also say this, okay, the Dodgers are very creative with the 60 IL stints or whatever they may be. And they're super, super, super creative with their up-downs, right? So, I mean, like you bring up a Landon Knack, you bring up a Ben Kasparius, a Justin Robleski, they piggyback, and then you send them down, here comes another guy. I mean, just all up and down. So for all of that math that you're talking about, to trying to make it work, to extend this guy, to extend that guy, my opinion, I mean, it's going to be impossible to figure out exactly how that's going to work, but just the overall shell of that, that's where they're going to use their minor leaguers to make it all work. And they have about 6 guys more than they actually need to be able to execute that plan.
Yep. Yeah, they have a lot of guys. They have a history of using the up-down train from Oklahoma City to Los Angeles. They have the ability to do that, and they will execute that. I have no doubt that the Dodgers will do that. If they go out and get another relief pitcher that they're really excited about, that they believe in, that can pitch in those high-leverage situations that would make this team better, the Dodgers have the ability to do so. They don't have to make that move, but they have the ability to, and if the right guy comes along at the right price, the Dodgers will do that.
Hey, let's dive into some of our chat, Austin. We have just an incredible, it is so humbling. I want to thank all of you Dodgers dogs out there. It's so humbling every time we get on here and we get to talk to you guys. Austin and I just started talking behind a microphone. Didn't really know what the hell we were doing. Next thing we know, we're having these great shows. These Dodgers dogs fans are the best, aren't they, Austin?
Oh, they're absolutely wonderful. Super thankful for them.
One more thing before we get into that, too. I think that also allows them to take a lot of pressure off of Sasaki. The Blake Snell signing does. I think when you look at your 4 pitchers you mentioned for the playoffs, then a Tony Gonsolin and or a Dustin May could be your 5th and 6th starters. Maybe a Roki Sasaki, maybe a Landon Knack, maybe a Ben Kasparius, maybe, somebody like a Jared Karros if he comes up and makes his major league debut, somebody like that. Or it could be a Roki Sasaki. So now we've been saying this entire offseason. Roki Sasaki is not Yoshinobu Yamamoto. The Dodgers are not going to get him to go literally just plug in to be 1A pitcher, like one of the pitchers that throws like they did last year in Korea. They're going to get Roki Sasaki for the upside, and they are going to be able to ease him into this a lot slower than they were allowed to ease in Yoshinobu Yamamoto. So this Blake Snell signing, I think, really helps with the progression of easing Roki Sasaki into what they need out of him. Now, on the other side of that, I think Sasaki's going to be able to see that, and that's what he's going to want. Is he going to be wanted to eased into a major league rotation, or is he going to want to go somewhere where he can slip right in at the top somewhere?
That's a really good question.
It is.
I wish I was friends with Roki. I could ask him this and know the answers to that. I'm not friends with Roki, probably never will, unfortunately. but he's going to make a decision. He's going to know what team that he wants to sign in, and what place is going to fit best for him. I think it's Los Angeles. I think it would be best for him to come to the Dodgers selfishly, but that's going to be Roki's decision to make. Yeah. It'd be great to win championships if I were Roki, though.
You know what's awesome about the position the Dodgers are in? One of the things is that, hey, you know, we could talk one of the big three. We've talked about one of the big three: Max Fried, Corbin Burns, Blake Snell, whatever. Yeah. Everybody can have their reasons, and we've said it many different times. The answer to all these guys is yes. The answer is right for all of them. There is no wrong answer when you're talking about Max Fried, Corbin Burns, Blake Snell, or any of these guys, right? Okay, so you can have the debate on which one do you want to go get, whatever. It doesn't matter, any of them. Just go get one, right? I'm good with any of them. But I think that the intriguing part of where the Dodgers are at right now, Austin, I think if you took a poll of educated Dodgers fans right now, like in the Dodgers Dawgs lobby, who is the next guy the Dodgers need to go sign? I think out of 100 people, 100 of them would all say Teo right now.
Yeah,
would you agree?
I would say you're absolutely right. He was a massive part of a World Series championship team, and he would fit right into this Dodgers team going forward. He wants to be a Los Angeles Dodger. I think he would fit right in. I think he's the guy that everybody wants, and I think Teoscar would love to become a Los Angeles Dodger, and I think the Dodgers recognize that they need his help. Just looking at the areas of need that this Dodgers team have, they need an outfielder. Teoscar Hernandez would fill in that void really nice.
Yeah, let me run through some of these comments. BC, good evening. LA is signing everyone and winning everything. Pinsanity, I really had that feeling Snell was their guy. Yeah, he fits their contract structure, and they love the upside. They love the upside plus the shorter contracts. This is just so on brand for the Dodgers, isn't it?
Oh, it's so on brand with the Dodgers. It creates long-term ability to do a whole bunch of different things. Even though he's locked up for the 5 years, I think 5 years is reasonable enough. I think it's right at the limit of where the Dodgers are usually comfortable signing these free agent pitchers. I don't think they usually like to go past the 5, especially for the age that Blake Snell is at. I think they're comfortable taking the risk at 5 years for the upside that Blake Snell has, and for the upside that he has, particularly over the first 3 seasons or so in the Dodgers uniform, when the Dodgers' opportunity to win a World Series championship is at its highest.
Hey, Yang Yi says, here's a big point too. None of these big guys that you mentioned, who are your 4 playoff starters now, Austin?
It is Blake Snell, Tyler Glasnow, Yoshinobu Yamamoto, and Shohei Ohtani.
I don't know if I'm smiling or laughing listening to that, right? And here's another thing Yang Yi is saying. None of those suckers even have to start twice in a playoff series, right? Or they could.
They could start twice. The Dodgers have the ability to work out the rotation and their pitching staff however the Dodgers want to. That is a great thing about where they're at.
Orlando, good evening. Thank you so much for joining. No doubt the Dodgers are all in. Orlando says other teams should just start the rebuild now. No doubt about that. Poor Padres, man. Right? I mean, I feel sorry for them, don't you?
Maybe a little bit, but then I get over it pretty quick.
Okay, you feel sorry for the Dodgers a little bit?
Not for the Dodgers? No way. We weren't in the
for the Padres. You feel sorry for the Padres a little bit?
No, not really.
Okay, well, that's way more than I feel sorry for them. So how's that sound? Hey, Austin, bring up Adames and Soto. Well, I think you're going to have a show on them later. You want to talk about those two?
I will just mention briefly with both of them. With a Juan Soto, I think it's probably unlikely that the Dodgers would go out and get him. On an upcoming show, probably Monday, I'll be able to talk a little bit more in depth, especially historically wise, how good Juan Soto has been, assuming that he is not signed by Monday. He's been a historically great player. Yeah. I just don't think it fits with where the Dodgers what they would be able to offer to Juan Soto, which is a ton of money. I think the Dodgers would prefer a shorter term, really high AAV deal. I don't think Juan Soto is going to go after that, and I think other teams are going to offer him more long-term security than what the Dodgers will. I don't think it's in 0% chance that he comes to the Dodgers. I would just put those odds as really low. And with Willy Adames, I haven't been the highest on Willy Adames just because of the years that Willy Adames would come across. He would likely cost at least 6 years, and 6 years for a shortstop, especially looking at shortstops who are aged 30, 31 plus. There's really not a great history of a lot of them sticking at the shortstop position. And I think some of the value of Willy Adames comes from his ability to play shortstop, and his defensive metrics did decline, whether that's just a 1-year deal or a potential concern of long-term risk, I think becomes a major question. And with Willy Adames, it's not like you're talking about a 125 or 130 to 140. You're talking about a 119, 120-ish WRC plus that likely would decline over the course of the contract. I don't think that makes the best third baseman. I think you can target other guys that could be a little bit cheaper, and you might want to use positional versatility there for Will Smith or Dalton Rushing in the future.
Hey, Daniel Berry, Sports Highlight, thank you so much for joining History Man. Yeah, the Dodgers absolutely mean business. Craig Osterberg, you are absolutely awesome. Young Yi, let's have some sympathy for non-Dodgers fans, or let's not, right? Hey, Showtime, thank you so much for joining. Colossal Jaguar. Kenneth Hall, hope we resign Teo. We are all in agreement there. Dan Inspiration, Dodgers have best starters since Atlanta in the 90s.
Ooh.
Yeah, boy, that's a big one with Glavine and Maddox and Smoltz and Steve Avery, and it was eventually Jason Schmidt. No, boy, that was good. Those were some
phenomenal teams. And the Dodgers, their pitching is able to rival that or get close to that standard with the Dodgers offense of where it's at. Oh, boy, this team could be unstoppable.
Showtime says just need Roki to finish off that 6-man rotation. So do you think, May, does this put May in the bullpen for you? I know we've talked about that several times before, but does this change anything you think about there?
I would say yes, but I lean more yes, specifically because I think what the Dodgers should do is do whatever it takes to keep Dustin May healthy. Whatever keeps him healthy is what the Dodgers should do with Dustin May, which if you're talking about a high leverage relief arm, you could have it in-house with a guy like a Dustin May with his stuff that is as wicked as it is. With the starting rotation, I don't think it's a 0% chance that he goes into the starting rotation. I just don't know if he can stay healthy through the course of the full season, being in the starting rotation with the amount of injuries that he's had. Could add some depth, could fill in as a starting pitcher at some point throughout the course of the season. But I think I want to keep him on the field. And if it's a bullpen, that's where that's at, I'm fine with him being in the bullpen.
Keep in mind, bullpen could mean bulk innings. So,
yes.
I mean, it's the line between starter and bullpen is not always black and white anymore. I mean, a lot of times your bullpen guy, technically a bullpen arm, can pitch longer than your starter. We've seen that even in the playoffs, right? So, hey, Sean saying bring on Roki and a shortstop. I'm with you on that. Dan Inspiration, hey, if it was between Roki and Corbin Burns, who do you take? Obviously, you take Corbin Burns, but you're looking at 7 years. Roki, you don't have to sign probably until spring training, which means you can wait till one of the 60-day and have him take one of the 60-day IL spots instead of one of the 3 remaining at this point. So that gives you leverage between now and then, and it gives you a cheaper option. And because you got Blake Snell, as you said earlier, Austin, now you're being choosy. You have wants instead of needs. And so Corbin Burns isn't needed. So you only get a Corbin Burns if everything that he wants contract-wise fits with what you need. So now the only way you get Corbin Burns is like at 5 years and maybe a 6-year club option, something like that, right?
Yeah, only if his market collapses the Dodgers would they get out and get a Corbin Burns. Between Corbin Burns and Roki Sasaki, I take Roki Sasaki every single day, specifically because he would not cost the Dodgers a whole lot of money down the line. He would provide a lot of optionality to this Dodgers team to make a whole bunch of different moves. He is on the upside of his career, and based off all the reports, has the potential to be a tremendous starting pitcher in the big leagues. Corbin Burns is the more established guy. I would take the upside with Roki Sasaki right now. I think that's what the Dodgers will try to do, is they'll try to go hit him. I hope the Dodgers get him. I'll celebrate if the Dodgers go out and get him, but right now the Dodgers are sitting pretty.
Yeah, showtime. I love seeing other fans say the Dodgers are circumventing the CBT. Yeah, too bad for them. I'm glad I'm a Dodgers fan. Hey, Sean. Good evening, Sean. Sean is just an awesome baseball person. I always get fired up anytime he comments. Thank you so much for joining, Sean. Me too. Giants fear tears. Giants fans' tears give me strength. Love that. The honoriness in the chat tonight. Dan C., awesome signing Shell, the acquisition I was looking for. History man, thankfully we are no longer the 90s Braves, but we could be similar to the 90s Yankees. There you go. That's who you want to be. Don't be the Buffalo Bills. We've already proven that we're not them, though. We actually have broken through that. Showtime, yes. Would you guys be open to a Buxton or Robert Jr. trade, Austin?
So with both, well, let's take Buxton. Buxton is the guy that we haven't actually talked about a whole lot, coming over from Minnesota. Incredibly talented center fielder, just cannot stay on the field for him. When he has shown in the past that he has the ability to be one of the better center fielders in the game of baseball, but has not had a track record of staying healthy on the field. I believe he's being paid about $15 million over the course of the next couple of seasons. I'm not anticipating any sort of trade with Buxton. I think there's a little bit too much risk in there right now, and I don't think Minnesota is looking to trade him, although they potentially could, depending on if they're looking to shed some of their salary. I see that as a little bit too high of a risk. I've never been super high on going out and getting a Luis Robert, incredibly talented player. I just don't love the swing and miss and the low walk. That is too much of a hurdle. That is too much of an up and down for a Luis Robert to go out and get him. And I don't think the Dodgers necessarily have to go out and get a bat like that or take a risk with a bat like a Luis Robert. I'm looking for a little bit more consistency, that guys that can get on base for the guys at the top of the lineup, not necessarily exclusively looking for guys that can be those run producers. Luis Robert, incredibly talented player. He's a really gifted center fielder out there. Mm-hmm. There's a little bit too much questions, and a lot resembles some very risky things on the offensive side that could have some really low down peaks with a Luis Robert. So I wouldn't push all my chips to go out and get him.
Yeah. So where are we at with Walker Buehler, Jack Flaherty? We have a question here.
Jack Flaherty, I'd say, is going to go
That's
somewhere else.
That's from BFun 95. Sorry about that.
Yeah. We got to make sure we let everybody know who made that comment. Jack Flaherty, I think, is very likely going to go somewhere else. I think he's going to get a pretty solid contract based on what he was able to do during the 2024 season. He reestablished himself during his time in Detroit and continued to winning a World Series championship and being the main reason why the Dodgers won a World Series championship in 2024. He's going to go make a really solid deal he's going to make some money, kind of reestablish himself as a towards the front of the line starter. I don't think the Dodgers need him, and I think he'd make more money going somewhere else. So go let him make more money somewhere else. Walker Buehler becomes the interesting one because the Dodgers don't need to go out and get a Walker Buehler. If he really wants to be a Dodger, I think he will be a Dodger because I think the Dodgers, as much depth as we talk about this Dodgers starting rotation,
will it be him or Sasaki or both? I think that's either or right there, right?
It becomes probably an either or signing. And with Walker Buehler, as far as where the Dodgers are at right now, the deal that they would likely go out and get a Walker Buehler, which let's remember, they did not offer him the qualifying offer, the 1 year, $21 million deal. So the Dodgers won't get a draft pick if he goes somewhere else. They also didn't want to sign him to the 1 year, $21 million deal. They would likely look for some sort of team-friendly, incentive-laden, short-term contract for Walker Buehler. Does he get a better offer somewhere else? I don't think the Dodgers are signing Walker Buehler to a longer-term deal, which makes the deal for a Walker Buehler more unlikely if he wants to have that long-term security. If he wants to come back and be a Dodger 100%, I think the Dodgers would try to make something work out, even with the amount of depth that they would have because of what he's meant to this Dodgers team. The Blake Snell signing makes that the possibility of Walker Buehler coming back go down pretty significantly, and especially with other teams we're hearing about interested in Walker Buehler because of his upside pitching in the postseason. I think there's a really good chance that he ends up somewhere else, which is going to hurt. It's going to suck being a Dodgers fan. But you have to ask yourself, who would you rather have right now, Blake Snell or Walker Buehler? Right now, I think Blake Snell is the better pitcher, and you have to ask what is going to be the best for the long term, not exclusively looking at things in a nostalgic type of way. As good as Walker Buehler has been, which he was phenomenal during the postseason, he's the reason why the Dodgers won the World Series. And
is a month and a half ago nostalgia?
Well, it's not just a month and a half ago. It is the years that he's spent for this Dodgers team. He's
I give you hell, Brubaker. I love it.
I know. He has meant everything to this Dodgers team, and the Dodgers would love to have him back.
To say, man, you're getting in one of these areas right here. You start not talking perfectly about Walker Buehler, right?
I know. And Dodgers fans love Walker Buehler, and he is a Dodger for life, no matter where he goes. I just feel like right now he's going to field better offers from other teams that are going to offer him more length and more money, more guaranteed money than what the Dodgers are going to be willing to offer him, especially with you talk about 2026 for the rotation and all of the young guys that we're talking about being on the injured list, Kyle Eric, Gavin Stone, Emmett Sheehan for sure, River Ryan being healthy. They'd probably be looking for just a 1-year deal with the length that they have, especially if they get a Sasaki. So if he wants to be back again in 2025 for this Dodgers team, I'm sure the Dodgers could work out something to get a Walker Buehler. They're already over the top luxury threshold, so might as well go out and get him. But if he wants more long-term security, he can go out and get that with another team. It's up to Walker Buehler and what he wants to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, Jack Powers, you are on the right track here. All the minor league guys can rotate in through the bullpen and spot start for the extra breaks on the up-down train, no doubt, and they can give those spot starts so you can keep your A team as fresh as possible. Yangi, here's my Dodgers injured starting pitcher rotation. Stone, Sheehan, River Ryan, Kyle Hurt, Nick Frasso. Pretty darn good right there, right? Hey, Jack Powers, thank you so much for joining. We always love it whenever you show up. History man, Dodgers are our best chance for a title in L.A. Jack Powers, thank you so much for joining. Sean, so thankful to be a Dodger fan. We all are. And that was even, I was thankful to be a Dodger fan even when they weren't winning World Series, right?
Yeah, this is still a really good organization, and there's so many reasons to be grateful to be a fan of the Los Angeles Dodgers. Now that they're winning championships and they're signing every free agent, the even more of the reason to be thankful to be a Dodger.
With 4 starting pitchers for 5 to 10 year contracts, what pitching prospects' role will be from 2026 on? It's a good question.
That's a really good question, and it has the ability to be depth. They have the ability to go out, especially they're going to have to keep in mind. And these are the guys. It's going to depend on which guys they start using minor league options on. The guys that do and continue to have minor league options, they will keep around in their organization because they have the ability to go on the up-down trade to be up and down. Michael Grove has one more option for this upcoming season, which I did double check. He does have one more minor league option because I believe in 2022 or 2023, one of those years, he was only optioned down for 9 days, did not complete the 20 required days. Shout out to True Blue, who I read that article for after the 2023 season, Michael Grove. So he does have one more minor league option. After this season, though, assuming that he does that, I would assume that the Dodgers would explore some type of trade with Michael Grove or some of these other guys, not to specify him specifically, but depending which guys they use minor league options on for the guys that don't stick around at the top of the rotation as that 5th or 6th man, they would look to trade some of these guys to use them as different pieces to bring in other guys. That's the business side of the game of baseball, and very likely how the Dodgers are going to approach it. They'll find ways to fill in innings and make sure that these guys get in there, or things will just happen. And you know the history of a Tyler Glasnow with his ability not going past 120 innings per year. There's been a little bit of inconsistencies at times, although I don't think it's too concerning with the Blake Snell out there. There might be times that he has to fill in. There's uncertainty a little bit about the rotation. There will be opportunities for these guys to go in there. Defined roles, though. they very likely are not going to have.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that's a sting to a lot of these guys, but that's the nature of the business. And they're talented enough; they're going to find ways to get on the field.
Yeah, and eventually they'll be free agents. Congratulations to Drew Avans. He signed with the A's today.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. It is. And then Brandon Lewis, I just actually got a message from him. He got released the other day, and he's searching for another team out there. When you say the business side of it, it sucks, man. I mean, the business, but it is what it is. I mean, it is absolutely, dude, we're all in here to win this World Series, right? Hey, Norm Lee still says that the team still has infield and corner outfield upgrades to do and fortifying the pen. Still hoping for Kim and a big trade. So Teo, Kim, Devin Williams. I've been hammering that. Now, Corbin Burns, okay, you can trade that name for Max Fried or Blake Snell. So all one and the same. Does that make sense? Now, like I said earlier, which one you prefer? It's Apple. I mean, it's 6 one way, half dozen the other, right? I mean, like you said, they all have their pluses. They all have their disadvantages. They all have their minuses. But so basically what you're saying is lump them together. You needed one ace level starter. Check that off. Now you need a corner outfielder. Go get Teo. Check that off. Now you need either a center fielder or a shortstop. Go get Ha-Seong Kim and check that one off. At least that's where I'm at. So they're one step in the evolution of the offseason that I was looking for.
That's not too bad. The Dodgers are doing some good things right now.
Absolutely. Roy Estrada, let the haters hate. Warms my heart to see our haters have a meltdown. No doubt about that. Hey, History Man, like the guy on the movie Draft Day. Sonny, I told you to make a splash, and you did. Jay Raider Nation, what people need to understand about the Dodgers is they have positioned themselves. I've been saying this. They have positioned themselves not just to win the World Series last year, Austin. They have positioned themselves to be the premier team moving forward for however long anybody can imagine.
Yes, that's 100%. The Dodgers team is set up, stacked for the long-term future, not just for 2025, but beyond 2025. They have the flexibility to do that long-term. And it's because they've targeted the correct players, the star players.
Correct.
They've helped supplement that with a great farm system to either use some of those guys, especially on the pitching side.
And they've been stingy with the farm system.
Yes, they have been stingy with the farm system, which is crazy because they could go out and make even more moves than what they have right now. But I think they've been stingy because they want to have this sustained success and because they want to have optionality. And when they've seen the correct move, when they've seen the opportunity to get the player that they want, almost all the time the Dodgers target a really good player. They target the player that's going to fit them the best. The Dodgers have a great track record of doing that. Mm-hmm. And because they have these star players at the top that they've signed, that they've targeted, and they've gotten the correct star players, that's opened up all the different doors. So hopefully Blake Snell is in addition to that list of the correct star players that they've targeted, and that's going to open up a lot of different avenues.
It absolutely has. Hey, we have a super chat from Christopher Navarro, who is an absolute rock star. Christopher, thank you so much. Happy Thanksgiving, Austin, Casey, and Dodgers Dawgs family. Lots to be thankful, no doubt about it. Going to Mom and Dad's tomorrow and going to have a good Thanksgiving celebration there. So, hey, Norm Lee, as he ages, that walk rate will bite him and the team, especially when he loses velo on his fastball. That will undermine effectiveness of his curve. I think he's talking about Blake Snell. Roy Estrada want to continue to call us chokers and wearing a Mickey Mouse ring. Guess what? You poke the bear and the blue wave is coming. Hey, you know how you say that in the sporting world, right? You effed around and you found out, right?
Yep.
That's what you do with the Dodgers right there. That's how I would put that. I can't say the real version of that. Hey, Jack Powers, but riffs is different than missing barrel rate. Hey, whiffs. Hey, Chuck Huddleston, thank you so much for joining. Good evening, Casey and Austin. Great signing of Snell. My wish list remaining Teo, Trinan, a shortstop, Sasaki, a closer. He's on the exact same page I am. I would still like to see Buehler back too. I don't think you can do all that and get Buehler. I think it's either Buehler and Sasaki, not both. I think you can put Kershaw on that like he is suggesting here. I say it all the time. I mean, you talk about elite comments. You get them here at Dodgers Dawgs, Austin.
They're absolutely wonderful. Shout out to Chris Navarro again for the super chat. Happy Thanksgiving to you as well.
Here's another elite comment from Sean. Another factor, we mentioned this earlier. Snell is not going to be in a typical 5-man rotation. He's going to be in a 6-man rotation, right? So let's say that you want 120 innings out of him, right? Okay, well, he's going to have, say, what, 11, maybe 12 less starts because of a 6-man rotation?
I don't know how many. That's a really good question because
Okay.
I don't remember a 6-man rotation being implemented. He's going to have less starts than what he had before.
So
Yeah,
what
let's
is
just put it as simple as that.
each 5-man starter? How many starts do they get? 20, 25?
If they go through the full season, let's just say around 30 to 32 starts. So maybe about 25, 24. Let's just say something around that.
Yeah. So, I mean, what is it, 160 divided by 5? That's about 30 starts right there, right? Okay, so let's say instead of getting 30 starts, you get 23, 24 starts, which is probably what you get, right? Okay, so, man, in those 23, to get up to the normal, so let's say that in 30 starts, you go 5 innings, right? That's 150 innings, okay? So to get to that exact same 150 innings, but to do it in 23 starts, think about how much that's freed you up to go longer in those games, in those 23 starts, just mathematically, right?
It allows you to be able to do that. It comes into question, how much do the Dodgers want to push these guys, not just on innings, but on number of pitches. I think that's how you have to think about these Dodgers guys. Even if it's at the minor league system, if a guy goes above 30 pitches, they're going to come out in an inning and he's still pitching. He's going to be pulled from that game. Doesn't matter how long that he goes in that game. I think it has to do with the number of pitches. So I think it still has to do with efficiency. Does this open up the ability for the Dodgers, instead of saying, hey, we're going to have a 100 pitches hard cap, we're going to push that back to a little bit to 110-ish pitches? Perhaps they have the ability to do that. It depends on how aggressive the Dodgers want to be with their pitching and how they want to do. But I think it also opens up psychologically for these guys. Instead of saying, hey, I have to go out and pitch every single 5th day, I have the ability to go out there and pitch every 6th day. I have an additional day of rest, so I can put a little bit more out there. I think psychologically it could have an impact on each one of these guys. I just haven't seen too many 6-man rotations be put out there to have something to compare it to. So it'll be interesting test-wise this year for the Dodgers to see how they implement it and what are the effects of it. Because the Dodgers are going to be smart, and they have to figure out different ways to keep these guys healthy.
Yeah. Best way to kind of state the difference between 6 and 5 is with a 13-man rotation. 13 minus 6 is 7, right? That means you only have 7 bullpen arms. But because Ohtani allows you to have that 14th pitcher, now it's 14 minus 6, which is 8, right? So you still get that 8 men in the bullpen with the 6 starters too. It's just a brilliant strategy. And here's another thing I'll say about Blake Snell as far as the efficiency. I know he does play around with the margins in terms of trying to make the great pitch. He doesn't want to get ambushed and make the mistake, right? Trying to stay away from the mistake, which causes some more walks. His whip, though, was 105 last year, Austin. That's really, really good. So that whip, walks and hits per innings, that goes towards efficiency. So, yes, maybe he does walk some guys, but at the same time, it doesn't affect his efficiency in terms of walks and hits per inning.
Yeah, not at all.
Makes it up and not giving up hits is what I'm saying.
Yes, I think that's absolutely true. He also did a lot of other good stuff. Got to give a shout out to future Dodgers who put this list out there. 2024, Blake Snell put up career numbers in strikeout rate, 34.7, expected FIP, expected ERA, FIP, and expected FIP. Batting average against was a career low at 174. Hard hit rate, he wasn't getting hard hit. That was about 29%. He also had a career best in stuff plus as well as 122. Last year, his stuff was really, really excellent. There's a lot of good stuff to take away from his 2024 season and hope that replicates itself in 2025 all the way through 2029 when his contract comes to an end.
So Norm has a really good comment here. What would you say to somebody who says this right here?
Okay.
Of the 3 big pitching free agents, which would be Fried, Burns, and obviously Snell. Snell was 3rd because the Dodgers need a durable pitcher who can go beyond 5 innings.
If that's what the Dodgers were looking for, he doesn't, or at least because of the way that he approaches hitters, doesn't go as far as length as a Corbin Burnes or a Max Fried. With Blake Snell, I think he has the best upside as far as during the innings that he is pitching to go out there and put up zeros. And I think that is a really good thing for this Dodgers team to go out and get. For the Dodgers, as far as filling the number of innings, yes, they are going to have to fill out number of innings. And yes, that could be very much a concern if Blake Snell is only going out and getting 5 innings, especially if you're like, hey, is that going to tax the bullpen quite a bit? Really, I think is a right concern that I think both you, Casey,
it's worth answering the question.
All of us have recognize that as a very serious need. The Dodgers, with going out and getting a Blake Snell, I think got one of, if not the most talented of the 3 starting pitchers. It is up to the Dodgers to make sure that their bullpen, they come up with creative ways to make sure the guys are rested. It's not a traditional approach. Go out and get the guy that's going to throw out 7 innings and put up a 3.5 ERA. You might go out and get the guy that might be closer to 3 ERA, but might only go out and throw 5.26 innings per start. The Dodgers chose that the lower ERA, the more upside as opposed to the length. That was the Dodgers' decision. They do have a lot of depth to be able to go ahead and supplement some of those innings. They're going to utilize some of that. There's some guys that are down or injured, but that doesn't mean that the Dodgers can't bring guys in or fill in innings a whole lot of other ways. During the postseason, though, I think Blake Snell has probably the best track record out of those 3 arms that they have right there. They want
Burnes has been good.
Burnes has been really good during the postseason. Blake Snell has been really good as well.
333 ERA for Snell. He has a whip of 125, an average against a 216. He is, and in the postseason, he has 48.2 innings and he has 61 strikeouts. Corbin Burnes has been really good too. I think that would probably be a push.
Yep. And so let's just say that is a push. Yeah. I think either way, you're dealing with some really good options coming out of the postseason, coming out both through some really good starters that you can go out there. As far as the rest for the bullpen is concerned, I think that brings up the question, goes back to the argument that we were having a little bit earlier in the show, or this discussion is more of what it was, about how many of those bulk inning guys you need in the bullpen in order to help provide additional rest. Those are going to be the types of conversations that Blake Snell brings up.
Burnes has actually been quite a bit better than Blake Snell in the postseason. 2.33 ERA, whip of 0.85, average against a 178. 25 strikeouts in 27 innings. So there you go. They wanted the strikeout stuff, right? Okay.
Yep, they sure
and then
do.
They also have the 6-man rotation to fall back on. Hey, history man, there has not been a repeat since 2000. Let's make the Dodgers the first one. IMI, 5-year contract given to a pitcher about to turn 32. Any concerns? He has a lot of innings on that arm. Wrong side of 30. Austin, you talk about that all the time. Wrong side of 30. These are, hey, we're not trying to be negative. Yep. But you got to cover all aspects. There is risk of this. This isn't all just, yay, let's throw a party. Let's pop the champagne bottle. There are some tough topics and tough conversations to have about this deal, right?
There absolutely is. And there is a track record of guys signing 5+ year deals. Some of them work out. Some of them do not work out really at all. With the Dodgers, I think looking at each one of these different options, both a Blake Snell, a Max Fried, and a Corbin Burnes, it comes into question of how much length were you willing to give out. With the Corbin Burnes, I would anticipate him probably getting a 6, probably 7-year deal. He is, I believe, 2 years younger than a Blake Snell, so you'd be getting a little bit more of those younger years.
You'd be the same age.
yes, you would be taking him to the end of it. You'd be taking him to the end of the age, but you're taking on more risk because you would be taking on a longer term deal of a contract. With the Max Fried,
that's a statistician in you there. They're going to end up at the same age at the end of the contract, but there's more risk because of the length of it.
Yes, because of the length of it. Yes, there could be a little bit more risk right there. With Max Fried, I would anticipate 5, maybe he can push it to 6 years because he's a year younger than a Blake Snell, and because one of the options is off the table for major league clubs. There's going to be risk with signing a Blake Snell. No doubt about it. He's going to the wrong side of the aging curve. And there's very likely, especially at the end of the deal, there's going to be probably a decline in production.
Yes.
I would anticipate that more than likely. And probably the Dodgers are going to be overpaying for a Blake Snell. Does he help the Dodgers win right now to help them push to win the World Series? I think absolutely he does. And I think an added benefit, Dodgers don't lose a draft pick from Blake Snell, I think also does play a factor in this Dodgers decision. They look at the years that it takes to go out and get a pitcher like this. Even though if you talk about Corbin Burnes, let's say you sign him for 7 years and Blake Snell for 5 years, and you're getting a few more of the better years, supposedly, of Corbin Burnes, there's still a ton of risk signing players to long-term deals and what that does to the long-term flexibility of your roster. With Blake Snell, 5 years, I think is reasonable enough. It's the extension that a Tyler Glasnow was able to get.
Right.
And I think we're all comfortable with the extension that Tyler Glasnow got, even though he was entering a little bit more of his aging type years. And I think with the Dodgers, they have a lot of youth to be able to help supplement that over the course of the next couple of seasons. So even if there is a declining production in a Blake Snell, which there's going to be a chance that, especially in years 4 and 5, that is going to happen.
Jackson Ferris.
You have the ability to call up guys like Jackson Ferris. You have the ability. Jared Karros is really good. You have a lot of younger guys that even haven't a ton of guys that haven't even been on the radar of a lot of Dodgers fans that could help fill in some of that void, fill in some of the loss of production with a Blake Snell. And I think the Dodgers have the money to be able to do this. I think this was a need for the Dodgers to go out and target this. So I think they went about and got the pitcher that they felt most comfortable with over the next couple of seasons. There's a lot of risk here, but he has shown the ability to go out there and be really effective. So I expect him to be a really solid pitcher for the first 3 seasons and hope that he does pretty okay during the last 2. And if he does that, I think it's a solid deal for the Dodgers.
You don't ever expect anybody to be perfect throughout their entire contract whenever you're talking about signing big contracts. You're just hoping to get like 80% of it, right? So if there was no risk in Blake Snell, you wouldn't be signing him for 5 years. You'd be signing him for like 12 years, like Juan Soto, right? So, I mean, obviously there's risk because the length of the contract tells you everything you need to know about that. So another downside is, here's a great comment from Norm, is that by signing him early, it puts you right up to the third apron, which could reduce your 2025 international pool by $1 million, which leaves you only $4.1 million to sign Sasaki. I think you offer Sasaki. If he takes it, he takes it. If he doesn't, okay.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And I don't think a $1 million difference is going to be the biggest deal, especially because other teams are going to have the ability to offer even more than what the Dodgers have to offer in the international free agency pool money. It certainly is a downside. Certainly the Dodgers would love to have the international
downside, not a consideration,
money.
though. I think that's how I would put that.
Yes. Yeah. I would say the Dodgers are comfortable losing that to get a pitcher that they think can help win them a World Series and helps fill a need for this Dodgers team. I think finding a frontline starting pitcher during this offseason was a need. And if that comes with a decreased value pool in the international free agent and perhaps some ramifications long term, which is likely to have, $1 million can go a long way, especially for this Dodgers team that can target some really good players and have some really good scouting international free agents. I think that could have some sort of impact, but the Dodgers have signed some guys with international free agent money that haven't signed for the big term deals that have turned out to be really solid prospects or really solid big league players. So I think the Dodgers would prefer the guaranteed starter right now, and that fits a need with what the Dodgers have. And I think the Dodgers were going to go over the luxury tax regardless of what they were going to do going forward. So I don't think they were afraid to spend this money.
A lot of people think that negotiating, you have to wait the other person out. I don't. The way I've always negotiated is I say, hey, here's what I'm looking for. Either we can figure this out or we can't. And as soon as I see something like when I bought my house here, we walked into our house and I walked around it and I said, what's the full price? And they said, it's this number. I said, okay, well, then get on your phone and offer full price for this house. They said, we don't want to negotiate. I said, absolutely not. And so I offered full price, and they accepted full price. Okay. And about 30 minutes later, there were like 11 offers that were like $3,000 less than mine. Right. So you had all these other people that were trying to save $3,000, and I got the house on the first day because I offered full price. And 25 years later, I have a house that's worth $300,000 more because I didn't try to finagle and a $2,000 or $3,000 situation and risk losing the entire house. Does that make sense to you? So when you know you have a Blake Snell, you have the house that you want, and it's in the price range that you can afford, there's no reason to negotiate and take a chance to lose that guy. That's the way I see that.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And the Dodgers have a track record, even with the limited resources that they have, international free agent, draft-wise, signing different players to come up through the system. They've shown the ability to be able to find guys through that process. Their scouting is the absolute best.
It is. King Yellow Man, we still don't have a 5-man rotation for opening day. His injuries. Yeah, 2020 was the starting point. 2024 was the momentum starter, no doubt. Roy Estrada, thank you so much for joining, Roy. Good to see you back. Haven't seen you in a while, Roy. Muncy needs to be replaced. Too much swing and miss. Who cares about the walks or 30 home runs? Hit every now and then. We need a bat that hits for average. 14 strikeouts, no hits in the World Series, unacceptable.
He had a really good National League Championship Series.
Yes.
I don't define players by 5 games. I think if you look at the overall aspect of Max Muncy in his career, he's been a really good player. He's under contract for the Dodgers. I anticipate him being the third baseman for the Dodgers. I get the concern about the swing and miss. I get the wanting a different type and mold of player. I just think with what the Dodgers are paying for Max Muncy, which they actually get a really good deal with the output that he's able to produce, he provides a lot of value, fits the culture with the Dodgers well. He's going to stick around. And a player like a Chris Taylor, I anticipate, is going to stick around for this Dodgers team. There's a lot of players that are part of this Dodgers culture, part of the Dodgers fit. And especially if they're under contract for this upcoming season, I think they're going to stick around. And Max Muncy's part of that.
J Raider Nation, the Dodgers can do these types of deals because Ohtani has its own economy. That's funny. Yeah. Hey, normally one arm I hope the Dodgers look at is Shigano.
Can you repeat that again?
Norm is saying one arm he'd look at is Shigano, Sugano. He's experienced, decorated, could swing from starter to relief. That's what the team needs with a 6-man rotation with Ohtani, Kershaw out opening day.
Interesting. I don't think I recognize that name, so I'd have to do a little bit more research into that.
I may be reading it wrong, or it may be spelled wrong. We just don't recognize it. I don't know.
Yeah. And as soon as I do recognize that, I do a little bit more research and get back to you on that.
Hey, we're going to go for about 5 more minutes here. It's been an awesome show. History, man. Dodgers won it without a full starting rotation. Imagine what they could do with a full rotation. The possibilities are absolutely limitless. Dan C., thank you so much for joining. I feel like the Yankees were the team of the 20th century, and the Dodgers will be the team of the 21st century. That's a great point. What Andrew Friedman did last year when he went and got Shohei Ohtani, we said it when they got him. Yes, Ohtani's great. He's going to be great on the field. But the biggest impact of getting Shohei Ohtani is he is going to make everybody else want to come to the Dodgers. He is going to make the Dodgers the destination spot for all of these free agents, and we've seen that.
We've seen that, and I think we're going to continue to see that for this Dodgers team, for this franchise for years to come, because you could come and either play with Shohei Ohtani or be on the team that had Shohei Ohtani on it. I think I think he provides a ton of value to this Dodgers organization, worth every single penny that the Dodgers paid him during last offseason and will continue to pay him for years to come. He's been a game changer for this Dodgers team, and this ownership group has been absolutely phenomenal.
They have. Cole, I get the opening in Japan, but I don't like the stars pitching before they are ready. If it were me, I would pitch a couple rookies, but Yamamoto and Sasaki will be starters. Yep, that's a good point. I think the rookies definitely will be depth. Jack Powers, 29, building for a World Series championship. Daryl Jackson, good evening. Hey, the signing of Blake Snell came out of nowhere. It kind of did, didn't it?
Oh, I was dead asleep and woke up in the morning. I was not anticipating any sort of news dropping, and it was like, I got to send Casey a message, let him know I'm available tonight to go on and do a show. Came out. It was not expecting this early. Does make sense though. Blake Snell not getting the deal that he wanted last offseason, signing super late. Does not really have a great spring training. Not really a spring training. Tries to make up for that. And things just didn't go well for the start of the season during the free agency. So I get it why he wanted to sign early, just get that off the table and not have to worry about it. So after the fact, it makes sense, but I was not expecting any sort of news like this breaking this early.
Jack Powers, Dodgers building for a dynasty. Frank Ventimiglia, we covered this earlier. Snell, I think, does. If you're Sasaki, it makes you realize that there's really, I mean, you might start in Oklahoma City now because of Blake Snell. So I do think this signing does hurt your chances with Roki Sasaki.
I probably a little bit as far as opportunities available. I have no idea the mind of Roki Sasaki, and we're not going to know until he does sign. So
sure.
It's a great if the Dodgers go out and get him, because I think there's a ton of potential in his arm based off of all the reporting. I want the Dodgers to get the arms that have a bunch of potential that could be great arms going forward for the future. It's going to be his decision, though. If he comes to the Dodgers, I'll be incredibly happy. If he doesn't, I think the Dodgers will be fine and they'll find a way. Dan C., I think the Dodgers should get Soto, Adames, and Sasaki and utterly break baseball. That's funny. Hey, King Yellowman, Sasaki would likely start in the minors. That's what I just mentioned a minute ago. That is definitely a possibility. Cole, allegedly, Yankees so worried about Soto, they already raised their offer. Hey, Roy Estrada Snell signing had zero impact on Sasaki. That's Roy's opinion on that. Soto reportedly wants a 15-year deal. Dodgers reaction, see ya. And I think, and this is from Norm, I think also the reaction is, hey, we'll give you 5. Right? Okay. Hey, Dan C. Kim is older and needs surgery, so not on the Kim board train there. Cole, Dodgers willing to pay, but they are done bidding against themselves, not chasing Soto. I agree with you there, Cole. Craig Osterberg, thank you so much for joining. Hey, history man, a title changes the franchise. Winning this season now puts the Dodgers in a different light than a team that can dominate the league for multiple seasons. I totally agree with that. Daniel Paredes, thank you so much for joining. Sign Kim and Teo. Trade for the Cardinals closer. Call up rushing. That's a good plan right there. Hey, what do you think about Mason Miller, Tanner Scott? Too expensive for what for the needs of the Dodgers right now? Tanner Scott's likely going to require 4 to 5 years. I don't know if the Dodgers go out and get that. Mason Miller out of Oakland, one of the best relief pitchers in the game of baseball. I think with the amount of control that he has, unless you're able to get a really good deal with Oakland, which Oakland has made some trades that might be a little bit less than what we've anticipated going into that type of trade, unless you can make a really good deal with them, I wouldn't anticipate the Dodgers going out and trading for him or pushing all the chips in on a relief pitcher, given the Dodgers' track record of finding really solid relief pitchers or wanting to save the chips to go out and get other targets, other areas of need that come up. So I wouldn't anticipate it. He's an incredible relief pitcher, though, and had an amazing season out in Oakland. Tanner Scott, I don't want him to face Shohei Ohtani during the playoffs, so perhaps you could use that as an excuse to go out and get him. I just don't see the Dodgers signing or signing a relief pitcher to a long-term deal or using a lot of trade pieces to go out and get a relief pitcher. It'd be out of character for the Dodgers.
Hey, one of the last comments here. We're gonna go till we got about 3 or 4 more to get to, Austin. We're gonna cruise through these. Okay, here's a really creative. I mentioned, hey, you need to either have Blake Trinan or find me somebody else that will duplicate Blake Trinan that I can trust just as much as Blake Trinan. This is not an either or. I don't take all of your analytics and go write it down on paper or put it on the computer and figure out how that works, because that's what I want, right? Okay, so one option for that is Walker Buehler.
Yeah. That certainly is a
that's Johnny Lopez right there.
I was not anticipating Walker Buehler as far as being that late in relief.
Well, Hershiser mentioned it. Let's see. Arkaminit. I think I'm butchering that. Sorry, I can't read that name. But
I think most Dodgers fans, based off what Walker Buehler has meant to this organization, would love to have Walker Buehler back on this team. And if that means having him go out and pitching out of the bullpen, you saw him close out the World Series. He's got guts. He's got the ability to do that. He could absolutely do that. And if that brings him back to the Dodgers, oh man, that would be unique. That would be great. And especially if you pair him with a Blake Trinan, bringing him back, and then maybe having a Dustin May go out of the bullpen as well, being another one of those high leverage type of relief arms when he is healthy. Then you're starting to have a lot of different really solid options out of the bullpen that you could turn to.
Austin, we're going to finish our night with Christopher Navarro. Actually, Hepatitis C had a funny comment that Andrew Friedman said, if you think rationally in free agency, you're always going to finish third. Sometimes you just got to say to hell with it and go do it, right?
He's not wrong about that. Sometimes I think a little bit too rationally, and you just got to say, well, you can go out and make that trade. Don't finish third, just go out and get him. So, yeah.
Several of my players in the past have asked, hey, coach, when will you know that you can afford to have kids? So let me explain something. You can never afford to have kids. You just go do it and you figure out how it works, right? It's not something you think of affording. That's free agency right there. So, hey, we're going to end on this because this is exactly where I'm at. This is an absolute Dodgers dog comment to the T. Christopher Navarro, $5 super chat, and this is an elite comment. This sums up the conversation in Dodgers Dogs to a T. Mason Miller, Devin Williams, go get one or the other because we're blocking our excellent prospects. So use them to upgrade your bullpen and then also re-sign Blake Trinan. Ding, 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 ding. Wow, what a comment.
Hard to argue with Chris Navarro there. I want to see these prospects get opportunities, and it's hard to see them getting too many opportunities with the Dodgers. If they go out and find a really good trade to go ahead and get a relief pitcher that really helps this Dodgers team, I think that definitely could be an option that could really help fortify this Dodgers bullpen and make this team continue to be as airtight as possible. Even with the team having some holes on it last year, they still found a way to win a World Series. Now they can have a little bit, or try to make this team have a little bit more assurance going forward. I think they could definitely go ahead and do that. Thank you again to Chris Navarro for the super chat. Super grateful for that.
Thank you for everybody for all of your wonderful conversation. What a conversation this has been, huh?
Incredible. We come on a Wednesday night. Dodgers make a big signing. They spend a lot of money. Right before Thanksgiving. There's so much to be grateful for with the Dodgers, with what they're able to do. Actually, this past week, I believe it was on Saturday, bought my first actual physical tickets to Loons games this year. So if you're in Fort Wayne, I will be headed out there. I think I got 6 games in Fort Wayne for this upcoming season, at least so far. Got some tickets for Whitecaps. So I have like 11 games, and that's not even including all the home games so far that I'll be going to. So I was able to get some of those tickets squared away, spend a little bit of money, not as much as the Dodgers spent though. And there's a lot of reason because of the Dodgers went out and spent some of their money on a Blake Snell to be grateful for. But it's grateful for every single one of you guys, though, for tuning in, for making the show what it has been. Grateful for Casey for the opportunity to be on this show and have some really fun conversations with this Dodgers team. The world of baseball is so much fun, and the community around the world of baseball is special. And once you get a part of it, once you get to see inside of it, it really is awesome. And I think that is reflective, or try to make it as reflective of what we're able to do here from these conversations we're talking to you, from the player interviews, which shout out to the interview with Orlando Ortiz-Meyer. I haven't had a chance to watch.
Mayer. We cover that. We cover that.
Yep. I get it wrong every single time. Orlando Ortiz-Meyer.
His mom gets mad about it. Don't do that.
Oh, yeah. Orlando Ortiz-Meyer. I get it wrong there. Yes. Go ahead and check out that interview because that's absolutely, I'm sure that's absolutely great. It's just so much to be grateful for right now.
Absolutely. Very grateful for the wonderful Dodgers dogs out there. For every time that you tune in, we get a chance to talk to you. It is a great time. Lots to be thankful for. Want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. Good evening. It's a great day to be a